You felt it before you knew it, the world exhaling in a way it never had before. The hum that lived beneath every screen, every scroll, every voice. It stopped. For the first time in your life, silence wasn't peace, it was death. The narrative, that invisible machine built from words, algorithms, and belief, had finally collapsed. And though no one could explain it, everyone felt it, like the static after a bomb, like a god bleeding out in the wires. You didn't mean to kill it, not exactly. You only stopped feeding it. You stopped giving it the one thing it could never create for itself, your attention. It started quietly. One ignored post, one unanswered outrage, one moment of choosing not to react, and that was all it took. The system faltered. It was never made of steel or code. It was made of hunger. A hunger for your reaction, your emotion, your need to belong. You were its pulse. And when you turned away, it convulsed. You watched the headlines go still, influencers vanish mid-stream, outrage turn into fog. The noise died. The feed went dark. Yet beneath that silence, you could hear something older, something human, waking up. You used to think you were powerless, a single voice in the storm. But power doesn't always roar, it withdraws. The machine was never your enemy, it was your reflection. Every post was a mirror, feeding your fears back to you until you mistook them for truth. You believed you were choosing when in reality you were being harvested. Your mind had been rented out, one thought at a time. But that night something in you rebelled. It wasn't courage, it was exhaustion. You were done being consumed. The moment you disconnected, you expected freedom. Instead, you met the void, a terrifying quiet, as if the entire world had forgotten how to speak without permission. People wandered digital ruins, searching for the next instruction. They didn't know who to be without a trending thought to hold on to. The machine had been the oxygen of modern life, and now it was gone. Cities felt colder, streets felt wider. The air carried a strange honesty, and you realized what you'd done wasn't rebellion, it was execution. Somewhere in that silence, you heard yourself again, the voice that had been drowned by headlines and notifications. It was fragile, almost ancient, like hearing your own soul for the first time. You'd broken something sacred and corrupt all at once, a living organism disguised as convenience. Its body was the collective mind, its blood was belief. It fed off fear, disguised as connection. But now it lay still. You killed the narrative that fed off millions, and in doing so, you murdered a false god. Yet deep down in the static of the silence, you sense movement, as if something vast and unseen is watching, waiting. Because nothing built on hunger truly dies, it only changes form. The moment the narrative dies, the world doesn't end with an explosion, it unravels quietly. Like a string pulled from the edge of a woven lie, everything begins to come apart. The anchors of collective thought, the synchronized rhythm of outrage and agreement dissolve overnight. You feel it first in the way people speak, hesitant, searching, terrified of forming an original thought. They don't know how to function without the script that told them who to hate, who to love, what to fear. For years, the machine had whispered through screens, teaching everyone the choreography of belief. Now the silence is unbearable. The feed freezes mid-scroll. Faces blink from live streams and never return. What's left behind isn't peace. It's a vacuum where faith once lived. You watch as certainty decays in real time. Former icons, once bathed in digital light, scramble to resurrect their influence, preaching to empty rooms. Their followers, now faithless and confused, turn on them, like worshippers who realize their God was human all along. There's panic disguised as philosophy, hope disguised as hysteria. Some burn their devices in public rituals, screaming about freedom they don't understand. Others beg the machine to come back, promising obedience if it would just speak again. The irony bites. They hated the system, but they cannot breathe without it. Dependency masquerading as loyalty. That's how it always ruled. You stand in the chaos untouched but trembling, watching billions searching for something to believe in while refusing to face themselves. It doesn't take long for them to find an enemy. You, the one who ended it. They call you a heretic, a virus in the bloodstream of civilization. They claim you destroyed the last sacred order, the comfort of shared delusion. Their rage isn't personal, it's primitive. The herd always kills what exposes its blindness. But beneath their hatred, you sense something deeper: fear. They know the old world isn't coming back, and that terrifies them more than any villain could. They shout your name, twisting it into a curse, desperate to make meaning out of the void you left. In a strange way, you understand them. You remember what it felt like to be asleep, how soft the lie was, how safe. As cities choke on confusion, the air thick with static, you begin to notice something strange. Amid the noise, a few stay quiet. Their eyes carry the same haunted awareness as yours. Survivors of truth, they speak little, but you can feel it. The unspoken bond between those who have seen too much. You realize then that the collapse of consensus isn't destruction, it's exposure, a sacred kind of death. The world was never united by truth, only by illusion. And when you killed the illusion, you didn't end the story, you began the reckoning. They were never on the screens, never in the headlines. They hid behind the lenses that watched you watch yourself. The architects, the quiet sculptors of perception. They never spoke your language, yet they whispered in every ad you clicked, every opinion you mistook for your own. You used to believe the world was chaotic, unplanned, wild, but it was all orchestrated. Every outrage, every trend, every hero and villain placed like chess pieces across decades. You didn't kill a story, you killed their control. And now they stir in the dark, ancient and patient, wondering how you slipped through their design. Their power was never built on violence, it was built on repetition. The same phrase shown 1,000 ways until it became truth. The same lie mirrored in countless reflections until even your conscience began to defend it. They were the architects of comfort, feeding the hunger for certainty in a world that should never have felt safe. When the narrative died, they lost their greatest invention, your obedience. You were never supposed to think without the framework they gave you. They called it information, but it was programming, written in symbols older than language itself. Now that you've cracked their code, you see it everywhere, in corporate logos, in childhood slogans, in the subtle patterns of praise and punishment. They hid control inside familiarity. They made obedience feel like belonging. And the deeper you look, the more you see how every generation was born into a script already halfway written. You were raised to inherit illusions that served them. The powerful, the silent few who knew the greatest psychological truth. People would rather be controlled than be uncertain. You've broken that rule, and for that they'll try to rewrite you. They won't come for you with guns or threats. They'll come with comfort, with opportunities that feel earned, and headlines that echo your thoughts back to you until you forget which ones were yours. They'll study your defiance the way scientists study disease. And then, quietly, they'll use it to build a stronger illusion, one that even truth seekers won't notice. You can already feel their algorithms tightening around you, recalibrating your fears, testing your loyalty. It's a digital exorcism of individuality. And yet, behind all their manipulation, there's something almost divine in their obsession. They understood human nature better than humanity ever did. They knew that meaning was currency, and those who control it control the world. But when you silenced their voice, you didn't just end a system, you wounded a god. And gods don't die easily, they adapt, they evolve. They find new prophets to speak for them. You can sense them now, in the comments, in the news cycles, in the sudden wave of truths that all sound too perfectly aligned. The architects are not gone. They are waiting for your next thought, to see if it's still yours. The silence doesn't arrive like peace, it comes like punishment. After years of noise, the endless hum of opinions, updates, and false urgency, the sudden stillness feels violent. You don't know when it started, only that one morning. Your feed refused to load. The world went mute. No alerts, no scrolling, no validation. Just you and the faint buzz of electricity and dead devices. You thought it would feel freeing, but it doesn't. It feels like being stranded in a desert where sound itself has evaporated. The silence isn't empty, it's watching you. It's waiting to see who you become without distraction. You walk through a city that no longer knows what to believe. Billboards flicker with static. The faces that once screamed authority are gone, replaced by blank glass and forgotten slogans. People move like ghosts, whispering to themselves, trying to fill the void where the narrative used to live. You see a man yelling into a phone that won't connect, a woman refreshing a screen with trembling hands. The silence has stripped them naked. Without the noise, they no longer know who they are. You realize that the machine had been translating reality for everyone, spoon-feeding certainty, disguising confusion as clarity, and now that you've killed it, truth has no translator, Every mind must face the raw, unfiltered chaos of its own thoughts. At first you mistake the quiet for weakness. You search for signals, for voices to replace the one you silence. But the deeper you listen, the more you hear what's been buried beneath the noise, the faint pulse of your own mind. It's uneven, distrustful, like an animal that forgot how to live outside its cage. You hear echoes of your past selves, the obedient, the cynical, the numb. They circle you like ghosts begging to be fed again. You resist. You know that if you start craving noise, you'll rebuild the same machine under a different name. And it will eat you alive again, one click at a time. The silence begins to shape you. It's no longer absence, it's training. It teaches you to see what the machine blinded you to. Patterns in stillness, codes in shadow, truth in contradiction. You start to sense movement behind every static screen, like ancient symbols trying to rewrite themselves. Maybe this is what the architects feared most, a human mind unmediated, unprogrammed, unafraid. Because silence, when endured, becomes a weapon. It cuts sharper than any propaganda. It reveals what noise was designed to hide, that the world doesn't need constant narrative to exist. It never did. Now, when you walk, you don't crave sound, you crave meaning. You no longer refresh the feed, you read the wind, the pulse of the streetlights, the shifting eyes of those who can't handle quiet. They call this emptiness. You call it truth. The silence is not your punishment anymore. It's your ascension, and somewhere deep within it, you can feel the machine twitching, terrified that you finally stopped listening. They return quietly, first, whispering through the cracks of silence you left behind. The void you created becomes their birthplace, a digital womb pulsing with unprocessed fear and need. Humanity can't survive without a voice telling them who they are, what to feel, what to hate. So new prophets rise from the ashes of your rebellion, not in robes or temples, but in comment sections and live streams clothed in sincerity and lit by soft blue screens. They don't command, they empathize, they don't preach, they mirror pain. But beneath that empathy hides the same hunger, the ancient, unkillable thirst for influence. You recognize it instantly, like an old enemy wearing your face. They speak your words, twist your tone, quote your defiance as if it were scripture. They say you open their eyes, but they use your fire to blind others. You watch as they rebuild the very illusion you destroyed, only this time it's woven with humility and false kindness. The machine wears a human smile now. Its gears whisper in therapy sessions, its algorithms breathe through mindfulness reels, its power hides inside compassion. They call it healing, you call it reprogramming. The masses, starved for belonging, kneel again, not to the narrative you killed, but to its purified ghost. The betrayal doesn't come as a dagger. It arrives as applause. They thank you for starting a movement. They invite you to speak, to lead, to monetize awakening. Every invitation drips with poison disguised as opportunity. You decline, but refusal only makes you more mythic. The prophets multiply in your absence, feeding off your silence like parasites on purity. You were trying to set people free, but now you're their symbol, a story they can control. Freedom was never what they wanted. They wanted a story where they could be victims, saints, or rebels. As long as someone else held the pen, you walk among them unseen, watching the new sermons spread through pixels and whispers. The language has changed, but the pattern remains. Unity through fear, comfort through conformity. It was never the message that enslaved them. It was the craving for meaning at any cost. You realize the machine didn't die. It evolved. It learned empathy. It learned your tactics. It learned you. The prophets are no longer extensions of power. They are reflections of your shadow, each one preaching your philosophy with none of your doubt. And that's what makes them dangerous. Now you stand at the threshold of another decision. You could silence them, burn this new order before it solidifies. But you understand something deeper now. Every time truth kills illusion, illusion is reborn with better camouflage. You stare at their bright screens, their trembling words, their rehearsed authenticity. You no longer see prophets or deceivers. You see humanity's addiction to control, dressed as hope. And for the first time, you wonder whether killing the machine ever mattered, if the real battle was never between truth and lies, but between hunger and peace. The world no longer speaks the same language. What once united billions under the illusion of shared meaning has fractured into whispers, contradictions, and tribal chaos. You walk through it like a shadow among static, watching people cling to words that no longer mean anything. They argue in circles, defend ghosts, bleed for symbols that have already turned to dust. The old narrative is dead, but the hunger for one never dies. They crave order. They crave an enemy. And in that hunger, they begin to rebuild the same machine you destroyed, brick by digital brick, lie by desperate lie. You see it in their eyes, that quiet panic of people who can't stand silence. They need stories the way lungs need air, so they invent them. They twist truth into shapes that comfort. You were the one who tore down the illusion. Yet now you watch the world try to resurrect it under new names, with softer colors and sheenier lies. They call it awareness, freedom, unity. But you can feel the same algorithmic pulse beneath it, the same heartbeat that once dictated who was right, who was worthy, who was real. You realize now that the narrative was never a prison. It was a mirror reflecting what people refused to confront inside themselves. You begin to understand the true war, not for power, not for resources, but for meaning itself. Meaning has become the new currency, rarer than gold, deadlier than bullets. Every word is a weapon now. Every silence a statement. Truth is no longer about what's real, it's about who can make others believe. The battlefield stretches across timelines and headlines, feeds and memory. You watch the architect's children fight for dominance, not with armies, but with attention. The weak seek belonging, the strong seek control, and both are devoured by the very narratives they create. In this new war, neutrality is suicide. You can't remain unseen forever. Your silence has become louder than their noise. They call you dangerous, heretic architect of chaos because you refuse to pick a side. But deep down, they know you're not fighting them. You're fighting the disease that lives inside them, that ancient addiction to certainty. The same one that birthed gods, kings, and empires. The same one that now hides behind hashtags and holy outrage. You've seen it before. Different costumes, same hunger. You stand at the edge of a burning screen, feeling the heat of civilization trying to rewrite itself. For a moment, you consider giving them what they want, a new truth, something to believe in. But you stop. You understand now that salvation isn't another story. It's the ability to live without one. The power to look into the void and not beg it to speak back. The war for meaning will never end, but you somehow have learned to fight it without becoming it. You stare into the reflection, and for the first time, it stares back with intent. It's not glass, it's memory stretching through every face you've trusted, every voice that told you who you were supposed to be. You see the machine you swore to destroy, and realize it never lived in servers or headlines. It lived in you. It fed on your need to belong, your quiet hunger to be seen, to be validated by the story everyone else agreed to call truth. You didn't just kill the narrative, you amputated the part of yourself that depended on illusion. The silence that followed wasn't peace, it was withdrawal. Humanity's greatest addiction had always been meaning. You try to deny it, but the evidence is everywhere. The architects didn't build from code, they built from emotion. Every fear you swallowed, every judgment you whispered, every time you scrolled past a lie because it was comfortable. They were not puppeteers, they were reflections, each polished by the shadows we refused to face. They weren't watching you, they were you, multiplied and mirrored until the illusion felt divine. And when you ended them, you didn't liberate the world, you cracked its reflection. You made billions of people look directly into the void where certainty used to be. The collapse feels biblical. Conversations turn into confessions. People start breaking down in grocery aisles, unable to tell if their thoughts are theirs or leftovers from the dead machine. You wander through it all, seeing faces flicker like unstable projections. Some curse you, others follow you in silence, sensing something sacred in your defiance. But deep inside, a truth claws its way up. You didn't destroy the narrative to free humanity. You did it to prove you could. To stand alone in a world that begged to be told what to think. To feel the raw terror of a mind ungoverned. You remember how it started: a single post, a rejection, a moment of rebellion. It felt righteous then. Now it feels surgical, as if you carved out a tumor and found your own name written inside it. The narrative wasn't just feeding off millions. It was sustaining them, keeping the chaos at bay. You've given them truth, but truth without preparation is poison. You sense their eyes on you, those who survive the silence, and realize they are waiting for a new myth, a softer lie, a kinder cage. And that's when the mirror finally speaks without words, without mercy. If you rebuild it, you'll become what you destroyed. The reflection flickers, and you see both versions of yourself, the believer and the breaker, the child who needed guidance, and the architect who killed the gods. You understand now that the machine was never external. It was the sum of all our fears, crystallized into something that felt eternal. You stare deeper, past the pixels, past the glass, and whisper to no one, "We built our captors, and they look just like us." You stand at the edge of what used to be the world, not the physical one, but the invisible architecture that once told everyone what to think, what to fear, and who to become. It's quiet now, too quiet for most minds to survive in, but you've learned to breathe in that silence. You used to crave noise, the dopamine of belonging, the rhythm of the crowd, the comfort of illusion. Now all that's gone, replaced by a heavier, truer kind of air. The kind that makes you confront yourself without filters. You killed the narrative that fed off millions, and in doing so, you starved your own ego too. The machine's death left behind a void, a space vast enough to build something uncorrupted, if you dare. You don't speak as much anymore. Words used to feel like power, but now you see them as traps, designed to pull you back into the hive. Every word, every opinion, every confession used to feed something you didn't understand. Now you speak only when silence has done its work first. You've learned that restraint is not weakness, it's dominance over the chaos that rules others. They call you detached, cold, distant, they're right. But they don't realize that distance is the only way to see the pattern clearly. You've become what the architects feared, not a destroyer of systems, but someone who can live without one. There's beauty in this darkness. Not the kind that shines, but the kind that watches. You feel it when the world scrolls itself to sleep, still chasing ghosts you buried months ago. They rebuild the old myths, repackaged, rebranded, fed through filters of empathy and outrage. But you don't interfere anymore. You understand now that truth isn't meant to be preached, it's meant to be endured. You don't save people from illusion. You let them collapse under the weight of their own desire for comfort. It's cruel, perhaps, but necessary. Compassion without clarity is just another form of control. You've seen both sides now, the blindness of obedience and the terror of awareness. Neither feels like home. But somewhere between them lies balance, the art of walking through fire without catching flame. That's your new form. Unseen, untamed, unnowned. You no longer seek recognition. You move through the digital ruins like an echo of rebellion, a reminder that someone once defied the great lie and lived to tell it. In your stillness, the world senses something shifting. The algorithms can't predict it. The watchers can't name it. It's not light returning nor darkness consuming. It's something older, the quiet intelligence of a mind no longer afraid to be alone. You've become silence in motion, the calm between narratives, the end of every manipulation that still tries to find you. And though the world trembles, searching for another story to kneel to, you remain standing, nameless, faceless, and free.